The Untold Truth about Lorraine Hansberry, lesbian, feminist, and activist. Hello, everyone. My name is Joanne Barthold, and I am part of Professor LaFontaine's Honors Literature GLBT Themes class at Massasoit Community College. I decided to take this course because I wanted to learn more about the gay community. I chose to do my research on Lorraine Vivian Hansberry, a prize-winning playwright and author who was born on May 19, 1930. She died at the tender age of 34. Lorraine Hansberry was a pioneering civil rights activist, feminist, and brilliant playwright of A Raisin in the Sun, which debuted on Broadway in 1959 and is a play where there are many conflicts concerning women and women's issues. However, there is little recognition of Lorraine Hansberry as a pioneering GLBT or feminist author. Lorraine joined the Young Progressive of America and Labor Youth League in 1940. She joined the Jefferson School to study African American history with W.E.B. Du Bois. In 1951, she worked for Freedom Magazine, founded by Paul Robeson. She also protested the execution of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg of New York City on her wedding night. On June 15, 1965, Lorraine encouraged white liberals, "We have to find some way with these dialogues to show and to encourage the white liberal to stop being a liberal and become an American radical." A Raisin in the Sun debuted on Broadway in 1959 and is a play that fights for civil rights and feminism. Lorraine identifies with Beneatha because they are both advocates of civil rights. Lorraine also invested in Black feminist consciousness just like Beneatha. Lorraine was pigeonholed into a celebrity role. Society was not tolerant of homosexuality or diversity in the 1940s and 50s as it is now. Many authors who lived in Lorraine's time would have been delighted to live through these times. Literature has shown that the GLBT community existed far before the actual movement that we see today. The Sign in Sidney Brustein's Window premiered on October 15, 1964. Lorraine demonstrated the everyday encounters that gay individuals face. In the play, an openly gay man, David, is lambasted by his friends and neighbors over his sexuality. Lorraine was a lesbian who wrote a great deal of literature and political discourse surrounding the GLBT community. She lived in Greenwich Village, New York City, a historically gay community, with her husband, Robert Nemiroff. Lorraine is rumored to have had affairs with women such as Edith Windsor, Louis Fisher, Patricia Highsmith, Molly Malone Cook, Renee Kaplan, Anne Griffo-Choney, and her secret love affair with Dorothy Secures. Her lesbian literature has been stamped out of history, mostly due to homophobia. Being more accepting of the GLBT community is the perfect solution to keeping individuals out of the closet so that they are free to express the truth of their humanity. In 1957 letter to the latter, Lorraine states, "I wanted to leap into the questions raised about married lesbians. I am one of those. How could we ever begin to guess the numbers of women who are not prepared to risk a life alien to what they have been taught all their lives to believe was their natural destiny and their only expectation for economic security?" Lorraine Hansberry. It is presumed it is unforthcoming of her husband, Bobby, to not publish any of lesbian literature that would have proven Lorraine to be a pioneering author of the GLBT community. Lorraine Hansberry's literature is dynamic and could be impactful for individuals struggling to come to terms with their sexuality. It may help lessen the shame. Her stories could help the GLBT community develop and mature in a way that can help this community establish more peace, and Lorraine's literature could be a lifeline for those who feel isolated. Lorraine is already beloved, and her writing brings so much solace to those in the African American community. For young people who are GLBT struggling to feel accepted, Lorraine's literature nurtures the complexity of what it means to be gay while spelling it out without shame. Her authenticity surrounding her views and the lesbian community could also help with this growth. I decided to write a literary review of Lorraine's lesbian literature. Her lesbian literature has not been fully explored, and it is almost unknown that she was a pioneering GLBT author. Her lesbian literature has been overlooked, and this paper is a literary work to explore that literature. I conducted most of my research from many of Lorraine's literature, such as Raisin in the Sun and short stories that she wrote for the GLBT magazines, The Ladder and One. I have also included information from different articles and publications. Her elitism isolated her from the very communities she desired to be closest to. One could only imagine how exposing her truth would have separated her even more. Lorraine was ahead of her time, recognizing the connection between feminism and gay rights before these topics were even approachable. One can only imagine what would have happened to her career if it was found that she was a lesbian. During my research, I discovered that Lorraine did not want to become a closeted lesbian. Shortly after her divorce from Robert, she began writing publicly about her sexuality. It was difficult to gain access to her lesbian literature, which is in the New York City Public Library. I was told by her family that strict restrictions when it comes to her literary legacy. Lorraine wrote political discourse surrounding homosexuality and lesbian-themed literature. I was able to get my hands on Chanson du Conalis, but she also wrote The Anticipation of Eve in 1957, The Budget and Renaissance in 1958 under the pseudonyms Emily Jones and her initials L.H. Lorraine writes a letter to the latter stating, "I'm glad as heck that you exist. You are obviously serious people, and I feel that women, without wishing to foster any strict separatist notions, homo or hetero, indeed have a need for their own publications and organizations. Our problems, our experiences as women are profoundly unique as compared to the other half of the human race. Women, like other oppressed groups of one kind or another, have particularly had to pay a price for the intellectual impoverishment that is the second-class status imposed on us for centuries created and sustained. Thus, I feel that the latter is a fine, elementary step in a rewarding direction." Lorraine Hansberry's life was taken too soon by pancreatic cancer at the age of 34. Although she wrote a great deal of lesbian literature, her work is still largely unknown to this day. No one knew she also had ideas about the GLBT community. No one knew Lorraine was gay. Her ex-husband Robert Nemiroff chose not to publish her lesbian literature, though he published all her other writings after she died. Lorraine is not the only author this has happened to. Authors such as William Shakespeare, Virginia Woolf, and Walt Whitman, all their identities have been hidden, kept from the public view. It is in a circle, Lorraine says, in a raisin in the sun. It isn't a circle, it is simply a long line, as in geometry, one that reaches into the infinity. And because we cannot see the end, we cannot see how it changes, and it is very odd that those who see the changes, who dream, who will not give up, we call idealists, and those who only see the circles, we call realists. Lorraine Hansberry.